the mother. And I wanted to share this with you because I wanted to stop by because I know it's late, but I think it's something that you need to hear and you need to realize. People think that they have money problems, they have money issues, and they're struggling and they are going through this because they don't have enough. They don't have enough money. But that's not the real problem. The real problem is they have a safety problem. And the place your brain first learned safety was not school, was not church, was not in your business, it was your mother. You learned safety from your mother. So your nervous system didn't learn money through numbers. It learned money through emotions. See, I had to get that. And I'll tell you why. I had to get it because I was struggling with money. I would have it, then I would lose it. I'd have a lot, then I'd lose it. I'd have the ability to create money, opportunities come to me, then I'd lose it or give it away. And I couldn't understand why that was. Couldn't figure it out. Wasn't really there yet. I found out that money for me was in my nervous system and I was emotional about it. You see, my mom struggled at work and she always believed, or she was told to believe, that if you work hard, you'll have money. And the second thing she learned is that because you're a black woman, you will struggle just as hard. You're harder. You got two strikes against you. One, you're black. Second, you're a woman. And she shared that with me as I got older. So guess where that sat? That sat into my nervous system. It sat there and stayed there. So when I was making money at the early age of 11 or 12, I didn't know what to do with it. I washed it, made it nice and ironed it, and I put it under my mattress and never spent it. I never had an idea about where I wanted to spend it, or, at, or where I wanted to spend it on. Never had an idea. Never had no idea. Hi, Luis Perelis E81. Thank you for dropping in. So your nervous system didn't learn money through numbers. Hi, Candy Cane Dream. It learned money through your emotions, on how you react, how you feel, how you think money comes, and what you've learned from your mother. If money felt tense in the house when you asked for it, well, that's how you're going to react. If bills caused arguments in your home, that's how you're going to react. If asking for things made someone stress, and see, my mother always wanted me to have good things. I'm doing well, Candy Cane Dream 17. My mother always wanted me to have things because I was the oldest and I had great grades. So if I asked for a pair of sneakers, she would want to get them for me. But I knew that it caused her strain. It caused her problems, right? She had to find a way how to, locate it or get it done because I asked. So I felt that. And so for all you parents out there when you're talking about money, when you're stressing over money, when you're saying I don't have enough and you're saying it to your kids, you're doing them a big disservice by doing that. Because honestly, it's none of their business. If you can't do it at that moment, you say, hey, I can't do it right now at this moment, but let's figure some things out. You share optimism with them. You don't share the negative because it goes right into their nervous system, and they are stressed because of it. So they carry the weight that you carry from your parents onto them. So the weight of everything, the burden. So for me, it felt like a burden. Money did. If I had money, if I got money, it was a burden because I saw it. My mother was working very hard and always, didn't have enough time for us because she was tired. She was working around the clock to keep, us in a home, keep the lights on, keep food on the table, all those things. And you learn them and they get into your nervous system. As they say, you become anxious now. Not because you're anxious born that way. You get it from your parents. You get it from them. You get those ideas from them. So your brain links money to relational risk. So if I ask for something and it makes my mom nervous, that's a relational risk. So I'm not going to ask. If I ask, I know I have to take the burden of maybe I should be doing this with it or doing that with it, and being very careful with it, kind of really scared. So again, in your nervous system. So now, as an adult, every financial decision quietly asks the question, will I still be safe if I have this? And I know for myself, I will get money from someone and leave it on the table for days on end because do I feel safe with it? Do I feel safe with picking it up, putting it in my wallet, using it? What about, doing something with it? Do I? When it comes down to paying bills, I used to get very anxious. Even though I had the money, I used to get very anxious and not do it and then wait to the very last end. Hey, Miss Oliver, I'm so glad you're here. Good to see you. And I would always feel that way. I would just really completely feel like tense. And then sometimes I catch myself doing that now, even just having somebody giving me money, I kind of get anxious. But I have to tell my nervous system, you are supported and you are safe. It's okay to handle money. See, we're not taught how to handle money because we think it's very hard to get. And we carry, the struggles of our forefathers. Everyone that's around us that's supposed to make us feel safe. So that's why people are in their businesses undercharging. They're delaying selling. They're delaying paying bills. They're avoiding visibility. They feel guilty about receiving. They feel guilty about asking. They feel guilty about looking for something. Even buying things. Even buying things that you probably need. You put yourself, oh, should I get something cheaper? And I used to do that a lot until I figured out quality is better than quantity. I used to shop at Rainbows. Now, I'm not putting anybody down. Let me just say that I'm not. But I found out buying one great piece is better than buying 50 great pieces. You have to keep going back to the store, right? But that's from feeling guilty that you're spending money, feeling guilty. You feel shame around it because your nervous system doesn't feel supported. And because earning is not processed as an achievement, it's processed as separation. So when I saw my mom going to work all the time, who became the parent? The eldest, right? Sometime the middle, depending on, the capabilities. But the children became the parents of their siblings, if they had siblings. And then if there were only one, they actually became the parent of the parent because the parent was tired. You get the parent some food, you get them, help them lay down. You're doing things to help them accomplish what they're supposed to do for you. Now, I'm not saying it's intentional. Sometimes it is, but I'm saying it still happened, right? Because we've learned that if my mom goes to work, right, earning, that's separation. So now what's happened with my nervous system? My nervous system is going bananas, right? It's going bananas. I'm treating it as if I have to work hard, so I can't have children. If I have children, I'm going to be separated from them. I can't take care of them well. And aren't we feeling that now? We're feeling that since I've been working. The same thing. I used to work and I'd be like, I'm separated from my children, you know. Then you have to worry about, childcare. Yeah, and you're worried about your child being somewhere that they might get hurt. You're worrying about these things. It creates separation. So money is unattainable when it's separated from you because you don't treat it as earning. Earning is a good thing. A job isn't. Earning is a great thing. That's an achievement. We don't treat it as earning. We always say our job. Or I used to say when I was working at a job, I'd say I wasn't working. I never used the word job. I never used work. I said I'm working with that person, or we're a team. I would never say I was on a job, because if you look up the word job, you'll see why you shouldn't use it, right? You'll see, and you'll know. But we never treat it as earning. And I think not until my late 50s, no, in my 50s, I was contracted to be on by HUD to kind of work with this organization. And not until I realized then that I was earning, because I could put away money. I could put 10% into my savings, 15% into, an emergency fund, and I can save and I can go places. Not until then did I realize this is earnings. This is what earnings is about. This is what earnings. And all the other times I never did. Now, see, in between all of that, when I was younger, I always had my own business, so that wasn't even a thought. Whatever I made, I brought home. So it wasn't even a thought because I was doing my own thing. It was like, hey, if I'm making 10,000, that comes home with me, and I'm fine with that. But I never thought of that while I was working for myself. It's only when I started working with others that I start, not even realize in the beginning that I was, just trudging along trying to make everything work, right? So let's get back to this. So that you really get the fact of like what this is about money. I'm not saying that money is about the mother, but whoever your caretaker was, you learned and you got all that feedback, not in your mind, but in your nervous system. Your nervous system controls all of that. So you stay at a level that keeps you emotionally belonging intact, right? You stay at that level. So if you go outside of that level, and I'll tell you, here's an example. When I started working on my money situation, or my money safety, I was talking to my friend on the phone, and she was asking me a question about HELOC. And, because I was in real estate, so she asked me all this information. So as I was talking to her, I was holding the phone and I was doing something. I was touching something. And I noticed my hand was shaking. It was going like this. And I was like, what's this about? And I'm going in my brain trying to listen to her, right? Trying to listen to her about her HELOC. And I'm shaking and I'm processing in my mind now. Wait, hold on. Why am I shaking? Did I eat something I shouldn't have? I'm going through the whole thing because I'm always allergic to something. So I have to go through all of that. And I said, no. And the more I talked about the money with her, the more my hand shook. So I said, I gotta go, and I that's when I knew that money was not the thing in the air or the energy that it was supposed to be, but it was in my nervous system that whenever I talked about money, no matter who it was or who it was about, I always felt that way. So it keeps you it keeps you there, and you have to release it out of your nervous system. You have to let it go. So there's no need to fix your budget, because you can do it. There's no need to. There's no need to fix your budget. I'm telling you, I know it for a fact. There's no need to fix your budget. There's no need to say affirmations, because you can say affirmations to fall out. You can have them all over the house. If your nervous system does not believe it, it's not going to happen. You have to fix it by realizing you are no longer earning inside the emotional environment. Whatever was emotional around that earning, you have to get that out of there. Until your nervous system understands that that part of it, you will keep negotiating your income down to what's familiar. You will keep getting jobs that are beneath you. You will continue to work, or if you have your own business, under charge. You will keep doing that same thing. You will keep doing it. You have to make your nervous system comfortable in accepting, whatever number it is. So I remember, here's an experience for you. I remember when, coaching came out really a lot. And so I was listening to a lot of people, and I was charging what I was charging because I had been doing it before it became coaching. I was counseling. That's what it was. And so they're talking about how much you should charge and things like that. They were saying all this stuff. And so somebody said, you can make $15,000 a month. I was like, yeah, right. Right? I just said just like that, yeah, right. Well, guess what? That was an agreement. As soon as I said that, I didn't believe that I was worth $15,000 a month, and it's possible. It's possible. And in my linear thinking back then, I thought it was only one way, but there's multiple ways to make money in your business, and we don't do that because why? We're thinking linear. We're thinking in a separate state, in an environment that's emotional, not movement, not energy. We're talking emotional now. Money is about the relationship with your brain, that it learned the language that it learned. Like I told you about my mom. My mom told me that you got to work really hard because you're two things. You're behind the 8 ball. You're black and you're a woman. And I always told her, I'm not working hard. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to work hard. I'm not. I don't want to. And she asked me, what do you want to be? I said, I don't want to work. I know that. And she goes, well, you got to work. You got to work to live. I was like, really? I was like, I think I was 12 when she was talking to me. And I said, well, if living is always tired, I don't want to live like that. And my mother would always tell me, she said, you're so peculiar. Like, you're just the most peculiar kid. And she had no answer for me. But I will tell you that you have to change the language that you learned in your brain. Because your brain is part of your nervous system. It sends the messages to your nervous system. And your nervous system is your body, every ounce of your body. And once you see that, you stop asking, how do I make more? You stop asking that. That's no longer the question anymore. You start asking, what level of receiving actually feels safe to me? So I'm going to go back to the example of the 15,000 that one of the coaches was telling me about. And I was like, okay, the 15,000, make sure it feels good in your heart. Now, I'm saying it had nothing to do with my heart because my heart was fine with it. The rest of me was going like this, no way, no way, no way. You can't make that. Now, I was charging a measly $25 for 2 hours to talk to trauma victims of childhood sexual abuse. I was providing 2 hours of coaching and a workbook and a book. And when I thought about that afterwards, I was like, wow, I was undervaluing myself when literally the book was like $25. The workbook was about 17, right? Or so, maybe $20. And my services was well over, $25 an hour. So I undervalued myself and I put myself in the position to be emotional about it. The other place that we put ourselves emotionally in when we were talking about money, our money, or money if we're having our own business or we're working for it, is that we will negotiate. We feel bad for people. And that money is not emotional, it's vibration, it's an energy. So if you're feeling, oh, they can't afford it, you're already behind the eight ball. You're already devaluing yourself. How do you know what people will pay for? If it's of value, they're going to pay for it. So how do you know? And what blocks you from money, and what I've learned for myself, is those things like that. Those me saying those things, sending them out, those messages, sending them out, and everything that you ever want is just sitting around you, waiting for you to drop the wall, just waiting for you to drop it. The barrier, just waiting for you to drop the barrier, and it comes right into your hands. Just waiting. But because we don't drop the barrier and we don't start realizing this, I'm having trouble with this, I need to handle this. Yes, it's a lot of inner work. Sometimes you can't do it alone, and maybe you need someone to spark you, spark that flame under you, and so that you realize it where you're aware. And I can remember when one of my clients was in insurance and she was working for somebody else, and so I met with her at one time at her office, and she was, they were saying, oh, she's, very good, and I was like, you can do this by yourself. Why do you need them? And so she was shocked when I said that. She's like, what do you mean? I said, why can't you open your own office? You are bringing the people here. Why can't you open your own office and bring them to you? And she said, yeah, I was thinking that, but I don't know. And so several years later, she called me back and she said, yeah, I started my own office, but I can't get past this number. And so I said, so what was it? She goes, it's 90,000. I'm making 90,000, and I know I can make more. I know it because I just don't know what it is. So I said to her, okay, let's have a conversation. So we just were talking, and I was like, she was explaining how she feels, and and expressing when she gets to that 90,000. She don't even have to see it. She don't have to see it. But when she gets there, it's like, oh my, I don't know why I can't push past this. So I said, tell me about your childhood. Tell me about that. Like, did you have a good experience in school? Things like that. She goes, you know what? Only thing I ever had, one time I got a B in math. My father was very upset. And he gave me such a thrashing with his mouth, and he made me write that everything that I got wrong 1,000, not 1,000, 100 times, each problem that she got wrong. And I was so upset, but a B was great, and he kept saying, you need an A. So I said to her, what is a B? And she said, what do you mean? I said, what's the, it's, if an A is 100 to 95, what's the B? And she goes, well, that's a 90 to maybe 89. And I said, really? How much are you making? And she's like, oh my gosh, she never correlated the trauma that she had with that particular situation and correlated the numbers, right? So that situation buried itself in her memory, and then also buried itself in her body. And after she became aware of that, and I said, now you have to make sure that your body knows this, and get rid of that. As soon as it comes to your mind, get rid of it. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. That's not relevant to now. I can do more than that. And you just talk yourself through it. And then tell your nervous system, I'm safe and I'm supported. I no longer have to feel this way about money or numbers. It can even be numbers. But I just wanted to tell you that because we don't think that these little small things stop us from moving from one aspect to the next. We don't think it. We don't think it at all. We just feel like, this is what we're supposed to do. But in all reality, we're not supposed to struggle. We weren't made for that. Everything's energy. And if we take some of the things that they've said, and even in the Bible, did you ever see Jesus have anything and he always ate? He always lived somewhere. Where did the money come from? You ever think about that? Where did the money come from? How did he get from point A to point B? He's walking. How did he get there? And, how did all these things happen? If we use him as an example, because money is an energy and you have to vibrate in that energy, because money is not always, it could be earnings. It's not always what you think it is. It could be someone giving you something or gifting you something or, providing something for you. It could be any of that, but we don't see it like that. We don't count that, right? So when you think about money, tonight, think about it being in your nervous system. And I'll give you some, like I said, when those thoughts come to your mind, because your mind controls your nervous system. And once the thought comes, it then goes, the message goes out to every part of your body, whether it be your fingers, where you be, maybe you're biting your nails, maybe you're anywhere, whatever you do, grinding your teeth, anywhere, anything. You're sabotaging yourself. You're undercharging. You're taking jobs that are underneath you out of desperation because your nervous system is saying, this is what you deserve. You're never going to get any better. This is what you deserve. Or it'll keep having you go back to school to prove yourself. Or keep putting you back into, let me get this certificate to prove myself. You continue to prove yourself over and over again and still in the same spot. You delay selling. People say to me, well, not people, but my clients say to me, I want to make sure it's perfect. Well, nothing's ever going to be perfect. Not even you who's creating this product. It's not going to be perfect. So you delay selling because you don't want success because you don't know what it looks like, and you're scared that if it does look like that, then you're scared that you're going to do something wrong with it. Your nervous system can't handle it. It's irrational. And when I realized that I was being irrational, I said, this is really irrational behavior. Like, I'm going around in circles having this conversation with myself about money. Now, I know some people are going to probably tell me money is the root of all evil. Does not say that. Read that entire scripture again if you're talking scripturally. It is not. It says for the love of it. Not money is. It says for the love of it. So if you love it, I'm talking about attracting it, because everything here moves by that. So I'm talking about attracting it. I'm not talking about loving it. I'm talking about attracting it. It's two different things. And so we don't have to love it, but we do need it. So that's two different things too. So I want you to feel safe with money, so that you're not carrying this burden from your mother, from her mother to you. The struggle, that I guess they teach us about, credit cards, writing checks and all that, all that's great. But until you know that money is not emotional, and it has and it's we're treating it as a separate thing. We're a separation instead of earnings. We're treating it totally wrong, and we need to be, take it out of our brain that this is a rational risk. If we make this money, it's a risk that I'll have to work harder, that I'll have to give up my family, be separate from them, put all the work in. It's irrational. It's really irrational. And yes, once you get that in your brain, once you get all of that out of your system, yes, Raven Knight 1, you can invest wisely, because you'll have the ability to see clear and understand. So I hope something I said today was very helpful to you. Thank you all for stopping by. And I'm going to do a couple more of these pop-ins, because I think this time is really good for everyone, just to get a good insight on something that they've not heard in a while, or just needs to hear. So this is Edna White, and if you ever need me, check me out on ednawhite.com. Check me out. Leave a comment below. Love to hear your comments, your feedback on this. And even if you want me to talk about something, please. And give me some thumbs up, because I need your thumbs up. Everybody just kind of give me some thumbs up. Thank you so much for stopping by. See you next time around. Bye now.